Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I've changed all the names to protect privacy, but everything else is exactly what happened. I found my kids' passports hidden in my husband Desmond's gym bag last Thursday. The passports I'd been looking for since July because I needed Mason's for a school field trip permission form. The passports Desmond told me he couldn't find anywhere, that maybe we'd lost them during our move last spring, that we should just apply for new ones after the holidays. Those exact same passports were stuffed inside a zippered pocket of his Nike duffel, and I only found them because I was looking for my resistance bands that he borrowed 3 weeks ago. We live in Milwaukee and Desmond's parents are in Houston. When he told me 2 weeks ago that he wanted to take Mason and Joy to visit his parents for a week in early October, I was honestly relieved. I work at a Walgreens and September through November is always brutal with flu shots and insurance changes. Plus, I've been covering shifts for my coworker who's on maternity leave. The idea of having a week to myself sounded amazing. I could deep clean the house, binge watch stuff he hates, maybe finally finish painting Joy's bedroom that's been half done since March. He was being so sweet about it too. Kept saying I deserved a break, that I do too much, that his mom was asking to see the kids. Mason just started first grade and Joy's in pre-K, so taking them out for a week seemed fine. Desmond works from home, so his schedule is flexible. It all made sense. Then Sunday night, I'm helping him pack because that's what I do. I'm the one who makes sure the kids have enough underwear and their favorite stuffed animals and Mason's allergy medication. Desmond had laid out clothes on our bed and I'm folding things into his suitcase when I see he's packed 2 heavy winter jackets for the kids, the puffy ones we bought last year. And I'm standing there confused because I'd just checked the weather in Houston on my phone earlier that day, and it's supposed to be in the low 90s all next week. I asked him why he packed winter coats when it's going to be hot, and he got this weird look on his face. Just for a second. Then he laughed and said his mom's AC is always cranked up crazy high, that her house is like an icebox. Which, okay, I've been to his parents' house exactly 3 times in the 8 years we've been together, and yes, his mom keeps it cold, but not that cold. Not winter coat cold. But I let it go because I didn't want to start something. Except I couldn't stop thinking about it. Something felt wrong. Monday morning after Desmond took the kids to school, I was getting ready for my shift, and I kept replaying that moment. The look on his face. On impulse, I went into his office, where he leaves his laptop open most of the time because he's always jumping between work stuff and personal things. I wasn't snooping. I was just going to check the weather one more time, confirm I was being paranoid. His browser history was right there. I didn't even have to dig. He'd been searching things. A lot of things. Turkey non-extradition laws. Can U.S. authorities retrieve children from Turkey? Turkish custody laws for dual citizens. How to establish residency in Istanbul. International parental kidnapping prevention. He'd searched all of this between 1 and 3 a.m. last Wednesday. Over and over, different variations of the same questions. I sat there staring at the screen and everything just clicked into place in the most horrible way. Desmond's dad is Turkish, moved to the U.S. in the 80s. Desmond was born here, but he has dual citizenship, Turkish and American. We've talked about visiting Turkey exactly once, years ago when we were dating. And I said maybe someday, but international travel with little kids sounded exhausting. He never brought it up again. But his brother Killian still lives in Istanbul. They video chat sometimes. Killian's never been to the US, never met our kids. Desmond sends him money occasionally when Killian asks, which used to annoy me, but whatever, it's his family. I went to his email next, found the flight confirmations in his trash folder from 3 weeks ago, not to Houston. One-way tickets to Istanbul departing Thursday, October 3rd. 3 passengers. Desmond Mason, age 6, Joy, age 4. One way. Departure from Mitchell International Airport at 6:45 p.m., connection through Frankfurt. That's in 3 days. He was planning to take them in 3 days and I almost didn't find out. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. I opened WhatsApp on his laptop because it syncs with his phone, found a chat with Killian, pages and pages of messages in Turkish. I don't speak Turkish. Desmond tried to teach me a few phrases years ago, but I never stuck with it and he eventually stopped trying. I copied the messages into Google Translate and oh my god. The translation was rough but clear enough. Desmond had been planning this for months. Since at least June, Killian had been helping him figure out logistics, how to enroll the kids in school in Istanbul, where they'd live, how Desmond could get work. The messages from last week were about final preparations. Killian wrote something like, "Just 48 hours more and you are safe. She cannot touch them here." And Desmond's response, "I know, I just need to get them on the plane. After that, Rachel can scream all she wants. She'll never see them again." I actually thought I might throw up right there in his office chair. This wasn't some spontaneous thing. This wasn't a mental breakdown. He'd been methodically planning to steal our children and take them to a country where I'd have no rights, no ability to get them back. He'd been lying to my face for months, being extra sweet, offering to take them to visit his parents as cover so I wouldn't suspect anything when he bought the plane tickets. That's when I found the passports. I tore through his gym bag like a crazy person, and there they were, with some other documents. Consent forms for international travel with minors. The kind you need when one parent travels abroad with kids without the other parent. Except these forms had my signature on them. A signature I absolutely did not write. He'd forged my name, probably practiced it, because it looked close enough that airport security might not question it. I took photos of everything. The browser history, the emails, the WhatsApp messages, the passports. the forged consent forms. Then I put everything back exactly where I found it. I went to work and I smiled at customers, and while my brain was screaming the entire time. After my shift, I didn't go home. I drove straight to a lawyer's office I'd found online. Sandra Willis, family law attorney. I showed her everything on my phone. She pulled up the flight information, confirmed the tickets were real, active, scheduled for Thursday evening. She made calls right there while I sat in her office. Called someone at the police department. Explained the situation. Parental kidnapping attempt. Forged documents. Imminent flight risk. The police told me to act normal. Don't confront him. Don't let him know I know. If he suspects anything, he might move up the timeline or disappear with the kids immediately. They're going to be at the airport Thursday evening. They'll stop him at the gate before boarding. They need to catch him in the act with the tickets and the forged documents and the kids actually there. Otherwise, his lawyer could argue it was all theoretical, that he never intended to actually go through with it. So now I have to go home and pretend everything is fine. I have to let him pack, let him take the kids to school tomorrow and Wednesday, let him think his plan is working, while knowing that in 3 days he was going to put our babies on a plane and take them somewhere I might never be able to reach them. Somewhere I'd have to fight through international courts and Turkish family law that apparently favors fathers in custody disputes. I got home around 8 p.m. Monday, and Desmond was making dinner. Spaghetti, Joy's favorite. He smiled at me and asked how work was. Asked if I wanted wine. Told me he'd already given the kids their baths. Such a helpful husband. Such a caring father. Planning to rip my children away from me in 72 hours. I drank the wine. I ate the spaghetti. I put on a movie with the kids. I acted normal even though I wanted to scream at him. Wanted to grab Mason and Joy and run. But I can't. I have to wait. I have to let Thursday come. I have to trust that the police will actually be there. That they'll stop him, that this nightmare plan won't somehow succeed. It's Tuesday night now. Mason asked me earlier if I'm sad that they're going to Grandma's without me. He's so excited. Desmond's been talking it up, promising them the zoo and the children's museum and ice cream every day. Joy made me a goodbye card with crayon drawings. They have no idea. They think they're going on a fun trip to see family. Thursday at 3 p.m. I'm supposed to kiss them goodbye and send them off to the airport with their father. And then what? Just wait by my phone until the police call to tell me they have him? What if something goes wrong? What if he notices police presence and panics? What if he gets through security somehow? What if the flight takes off? I keep looking at Desmond and wondering who the hell I married. How did I not see this? How does someone plan something this evil while acting completely normal? He's been sleeping next to me every night, playing with the kids, all while coordinating with his brother about how to permanently separate me from my children. My lawyer said once the police arrest him at the airport, I can file for emergency custody and a restraining order. That the forged documents alone are multiple felonies. That he'll likely face federal charges for attempted international parental kidnapping. That I'll get full custody easily after this. But right now, none of that matters because I still have to get through tomorrow and Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon. I have to keep pretending. I have to watch him pack their favorite toys and print out their boarding passes and act like the devoted father taking his kids on a nice trip. I don't know what I'm going to tell Mason and Joy when this all happens. How do you explain to a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old that their dad tried to take them away forever? That the trip to Grandma's was actually a lie? That they're never going to see their Turkish family again because those people helped plan this? Someone please tell me Thursday can't come fast enough, and also that I never want Thursday to come at all. Update. Holy hell, you guys, I can't even process what just happened. Thursday was 3 hours ago, and I'm still shaking. The comments on my last post helped so much, especially the ones telling me to stay strong and trust the plan. I needed that because Wednesday almost destroyed me. So Wednesday morning, Desmond woke up extra cheerful, like aggressively cheerful, made pancakes for the kids, the whole happy dad routine. Mason was bouncing around excited about the trip, and Joy kept asking if Grandma would have toys at her house. I had to sit there drinking coffee and smiling while my stomach was in knots. Desmond kept touching me, little gestures like hand on my shoulder, kiss on my forehead, playing the devoted husband until the very end. Around 10 a.m. my mom called. She does this every Wednesday. It's our regular check-in call. Normally I can talk to her for an hour, but I could barely string sentences together. She asked if everything was okay, and I almost broke down right there in the kitchen with Desmond 10 feet away loading the dishwasher. I told her I had a headache, that work was stressful, that I'd call her back later. She got quiet and asked if I was sure, in that mom way, where she knows something's wrong but won't push. I said yes, I'm fine, and hung up before I started crying. Desmond looked at me weird after that call, asked if my mom was doing okay. I said she's fine, just tired. He nodded, but his eyes lingered on me a little too long. For a second, I thought he suspected something, that maybe I'd been acting too tense, too quiet. My lawyer Sandra had texted me that morning reminding me to act completely normal. Don't deviate from routine at all. So I forced myself to go to work like usual. My shift Wednesday was 6 hours and it was torture. I kept checking my phone. Sandra texted me around 2 p.m. that everything was set for Thursday, that police would be positioned at the airport, that I should not go anywhere near Mitchell International. She said they needed me to stay away so Desmond wouldn't suspect anything, and so I wouldn't interfere with the arrest. Just let him take the kids to the airport like planned. Let him think I'm at home waiting. But how the hell was I supposed to just sit at home while my kids were with him? What if something went wrong? What if he somehow got through security? Sandra kept saying trust the process. but trusting meant letting my babies be in his car driving to the airport to board a plane to another country. Wednesday night was the worst. Desmond finished packing everything. 3 suitcases. I watched him fold Mason's favorite Pokemon shirts and Joy's little dresses. He'd even packed their stuffed animals, the ones they sleep with every night. Mr. Whiskers for Joy and Mason's beat-up tiger named Stripes. He was packing like they were never coming back because they weren't supposed to come back. The kids went to bed around 8:30 and then it was just me and Desmond in the living room. He asked if I wanted to watch something. I said sure. We put on some show. I don't even remember what. He kept trying to hold my hand. At one point, he said he knew this week alone would be good for me, that I'd been working so hard, that when he and the kids got back we should plan a date night, just us. I looked at this man who I'd been with for 8 years, who I'd had 2 children with, who I'd built a whole life with, and he was casually talking about date nights while planning to destroy our family, while planning to make me a mother who'd never see her kids again. The level of betrayal was so massive I couldn't even fully comprehend it. How do you lie like that? How do you sleep next to someone every night knowing what you're about to do? Thursday morning, I barely slept. Got up around 6 a.m. and the whole house felt wrong, like the air was too thick. Desmond was already up, in the shower. The kids woke up around 7 and Joy came running into our room asking if today was the day they go on the airplane. Her little face was so excited. Mason was right behind her, already asking if they get snacks on the plane. I made them breakfast. Cinnamon toast, their favorite. Desmond came down dressed nice button-up shirt and jeans, looking good for his international flight to kidnap our children. He was doing this thing where he kept looking at his watch, clearly anxious about timing. Their flight was 6:45 p.m., but he wanted to leave the house by 3 p.m. to get through security and everything. Around 1 p.m., I started helping get the kids dressed. Joy wanted to wear her Elsa dress, and I let her because what does it matter? Mason put on his favorite Packers jersey. They looked so small and innocent, loading their little backpacks with toys and coloring books for the plane. Desmond was loading the suitcases into his Subaru, the same car we'd bought together 3 years ago, the family car. At 2:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Text from Sandra. Officers in position. Stay home. This will be over soon. I wanted to throw up. Desmond called from the garage that it was almost time to go. The kids ran to hug me. Joy wrapped her little arms around my neck and told me she'd miss me. Mason said, "Don't be sad, Mommy. We'll be back soon." I held them so tight, tighter than normal. Desmond noticed and made a joke about me being clingy. Then he looked at me and his face did this thing, this flicker of something. He stepped closer and asked if I was okay, if something was wrong. I forced a smile and said I'm fine, just going to miss them. He kept staring at me. For a horrible second I thought he knew, that somehow he'd figured it out. But then Joy tugged on his hand saying they needed to go or they'd miss the plane, and the moment passed. I walked them to the garage, watched Desmond buckle the kids into their car seats. He came around to kiss me goodbye and I let him. He told me to relax, order takeout, enjoy my week. Then he got in the driver's seat and backed out of the driveway and I watched our car disappear down the street with my children inside. Sandra had told me to stay home but I couldn't. I got in my Toyota and I drove to the airport but stayed in the cell phone waiting lot, far from the terminal. I parked and I waited. My phone said 3:47 p.m. Security, check-in, everything would take at least an hour. The arrest was supposed to happen at the gate before boarding. At 5:15 p.m. Sandra called me. It was done. They'd arrested him at the departure gate. The kids were safe, being brought to a family waiting area. I needed to come get them now. She gave me instructions on where to go, what entrance to use. I drove to the terminal and found the room Sandra described. A female officer met me there, Officer Weber, and brought me to where Mason and Joy were with a victim advocate worker named Susan. The kids were sitting on a couch looking confused and scared. Joy was crying. Mason saw me and ran to me asking what was happening. Where was Daddy? Why did the police take him? I held them both and told them everything was okay now, that we were going home. They kept asking about Daddy and the plane and Grandma's house. Susan quietly told me Desmond had been taken into custody, that he'd be processed and arraigned probably tomorrow, that I'd need to be at the courthouse for the emergency custody hearing. The kids saw him get arrested. They saw officers approach him at the gate and everything that happened after. Mason was old enough to understand something bad had happened, even if he didn't know what. We got home around 7 p.m. and the kids were a mess. Joy wouldn't stop crying. Mason was angry at me, asking why I let the police take Daddy, saying Daddy didn't do anything wrong. I tried to explain in ways they could understand, but what do you say? How do you tell your 6-year-old that his father was trying to steal him? That the trip to Grandma's was a lie? I put them to bed around 9 after they'd finally calmed down a bit. Then I just sat on my couch alone in the quiet house. My phone had 17 texts from Desmond's parents in Houston. Apparently Desmond had called his mom from the airport before the arrest asking her to call me, saying something had gone wrong with the tickets. Some confusion. She had no idea what he'd actually been planning. None of them did except Killian in Istanbul. But here's where it gets so much worse. Around 10 p.m. I was looking through my phone and I opened Instagram. Desmond had posted a story 3 hours ago before the arrest. A selfie of him and the kids at the airport with a caption that made my blood run cold. It said, "Taking my babies home where they belong. New chapter starts today." Home. He called Turkey home. Like Milwaukee was just temporary. Like the 8 years we'd built here meant nothing. I screenshot it before Instagram could auto-delete it after 24 hours. Sent it to Sandra immediately. Then at 10:30 p.m. my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. International code. I answered and it was Killian. Desmond's brother, calling from Istanbul. And he started screaming at me in broken English about how I'd ruined everything, how I had no right to stop Desmond from taking his children to their real family, how Desmond was going to take me to court and I'd regret this, how Turkish law would side with them, how I was keeping his nephews away from their heritage. I told him Desmond forged legal documents and tried to kidnap our kids and that he was looking at federal charges. Killian laughed, said American courts don't matter, that Desmond would fight this, that their whole family was ready to support him, that I was a controlling woman who probably drove Desmond to this point, that if I'd been a better wife, Desmond wouldn't have needed to take the children away from me. I hung up on him and blocked the number, but it shook me, because it hit me that Desmond's entire Turkish family sees me as the villain here. They genuinely think he was right to try this, that he was rescuing the kids from me, not kidnapping them. Desmond must have been telling them lies for months, painting me as some horrible person to justify his plan. My lawyer texted me at 11 p.m. Desmond made bail. He's out. There's an emergency restraining order so he can't come near me or the kids, but he made bail on the kidnapping charges. He's staying at some hotel right now. His arraignment is Monday. Emergency custody hearing is tomorrow, Friday afternoon, and I need to be there. So now I'm sitting here at midnight on Thursday, and my kids are traumatized. My husband is in a hotel somewhere probably calling everyone he knows to spin this story. His entire Turkish family thinks I'm the bad guy, and tomorrow I have to go to court and fight for custody of my own children because apparently getting arrested at the airport for attempted kidnapping doesn't automatically mean I get to keep them. Mason asked me before bed if Daddy was in jail because of him, because he was bad. My 6-year-old thinks his father getting arrested is his fault. Joy won't let me leave her sight, keeps asking if the police are coming back. And I have to figure out how to fix this while also dealing with court and lawyers and Desmond's family and the fact that the man I married isn't who I thought he was at all. Someone tell me this gets better because right now it feels like the nightmare is just starting. Last update. I'm writing this from my mom's house because I couldn't stay in that house anymore after what happened this weekend. Friday morning, I dropped the kids with my mom around 10 a.m. Mason was still asking questions about Daddy and when he'd see him again. Joy had barely slept, kept crawling into my bed all night. My mom took one look at me and pulled me into a hug that almost broke me. She wanted to come to court with me, but Sandra said it was better if I went alone, that having family there sometimes makes judges think you can't handle things independently. The courthouse was freezing cold. I sat on a bench outside the family court waiting room for 40 minutes before Sandra found me. She looked stressed, which made me more stressed. She said Desmond had gotten a lawyer overnight, some guy named Patrick who apparently specializes in international custody cases. Of course he did. Even arrested for kidnapping. Desmond was 3 steps ahead. We went into the courtroom and there he was. Desmond, sitting at the other table in a suit I'd never seen before, looking calm and put together like he was at a business meeting, not like someone who'd been arrested less than 24 hours ago. He looked at me when I walked in and his expression was so cold. Not angry, not guilty, just cold. Like I was a stranger. Like I wasn't the person he'd shared a bed with for 8 years. Judge was a woman in her 50s who looked exhausted before we even started. She had the police report, the evidence, everything. Sandra presented our case first. Showed the flight confirmations, the browser history, the WhatsApp messages with Killian, the forged consent forms. Laid it all out. The judge looked at the documents and then looked at Desmond like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Then Desmond's lawyer stood up and I wanted to scream, because he started talking about cultural differences and parental rights, and how Desmond just wanted his children to know their heritage. Made it sound like this was about family connection, not kidnapping. Like those one-way tickets were just an oversight. The lawyer kept using phrases like misunderstanding and miscommunication, and at one point actually suggested I was being culturally insensitive by not wanting the kids to spend time in Turkey. I couldn't stay quiet. I know Sandra told me not to speak unless asked, but I stood up and said he forged my signature and planned to take them permanently, and the judge had to tell me to sit down. Sandra grabbed my arm hard. Desmond just stared at me with that same cold expression. Judge granted me temporary full custody, which Sandra had said was likely. Desmond got supervised visitation only, pending the criminal case outcome. No passport access. He has to surrender his Turkish passport. Can't take the kids out of Wisconsin. Basically everything I wanted except it's temporary. We have to come back in 30 days for another hearing. After court, I went straight to my mom's to pick up the kids. Spent Friday night trying to act normal for them while my brain wouldn't shut off. Mason kept asking when he could see Daddy, and I didn't know what to tell him. Joy was clingy, wouldn't let me out of her sight. Saturday morning, I was making the kids breakfast when my phone rang. It was Desmond. He was using someone else's phone, said his lawyer told him he couldn't contact me directly, but he needed me to understand what I'd destroyed, that we needed to talk without lawyers in the way. I should have hung up immediately. Sandra would have killed me if she knew, but part of me needed to hear what justification could exist for trying to kidnap your own children. So I took the phone into my bedroom and closed the door while the kids ate their cereal in the kitchen. He started talking fast, like he'd been rehearsing. Said he'd been planning to tell me eventually, that he was going to explain everything once they were settled in Istanbul. That he wasn't trying to hurt me, he was trying to save our kids from a life he didn't want for them anymore. I asked what the hell that meant, and he said living in America was suffocating him. That he'd tried for years to be happy here, but he missed Turkey. Missed his real home. Missed being around his actual culture instead of trying to fit into mine. That raising Mason and Joy here meant they'd grow up American and lose their Turkish identity completely. That my family was too involved, too controlling, that he felt like a guest in his own life. And I just stood there in my bedroom completely stunned because none of this had ever come up before. Not in 8 years. Not when we were dating. Not when we got married. Not when we had kids. I asked why he never said any of this, and he said he tried, but I never listened. That every time he suggested visiting Turkey or teaching the kids Turkish more seriously, I'd shut it down or make excuses. That I'd made it clear I didn't respect his culture. I lost it. Told him that's complete bullshit. That suggesting a family vacation is different from stealing our children. That if he was unhappy, he should have talked to me like an adult, gone to marriage counseling, anything except planning to permanently separate me from my kids. He kept saying I'm not listening even now, that I'm proving his point. Then he said something that made me want to throw my phone across the room. He said maybe if I'd been more supportive of his culture from the beginning, if I'd made more effort to embrace his Turkish side, he wouldn't have felt forced to take this action. That in a way I'd pushed him to this by being so closed-minded about everything that mattered to him. I told him that's manipulation. That's blame shifting. That he made the choice to forge documents and lie and plan an international kidnapping. That nothing I did or didn't do justifies what he tried. He shook his head and I could hear it in his voice, like I was missing the point. Said in Turkish families, the father's wishes are respected. That he has just as much right to decide where the kids are raised. That American courts favor mothers, but Turkish law would have seen his side. I was pacing my bedroom, trying to keep my voice down so the kids wouldn't hear. He kept trying to make it sound reasonable, like he was just asserting his parental rights, like wanting his kids to grow up in his homeland was this noble thing instead of a betrayal. At one point he actually said once we were in Istanbul and everything settled, maybe I could have visited. That Kilian's place is big enough, that we could have worked out some arrangement. I asked if he was completely insane, if he really thought I'd be okay with visiting my own children in another country a few times a year, while they lived with him permanently. He said lots of divorced parents make international arrangements work, that it wouldn't be ideal, but we'd adjust. That's when I realized he'd already planned our divorce. Before even taking the kids. He decided our marriage was over, that he was done with America and with me, and he was just going to take what he wanted. The kids, the life in Turkey, all of it. And somehow in his mind this was justified because of cultural differences and my supposed lack of support. Then he said something that absolutely floored me. He said his parents in Houston don't know the real plan, that he'd told them he was taking the kids to visit them. Same story he told me. That Kilian is the only family who knew about Istanbul. And he asked me not to tell his parents because they wouldn't understand. They'd side with me. And he didn't want them turning on him. So even his own parents were lied to. Everyone was a pawn in his plan except Kilian. I told him I didn't owe him any favors and his parents deserved to know what their son really tried to do. He got angry then. That telling his parents would only cause more damage. That I should focus on our kids instead of trying to turn his family against him. I hung up on him. Just ended the call mid-sentence. He tried calling back 3 times from that same number and I blocked it. He texted later from yet another number saying I'd regret not trying to understand his side. That the kids would grow up resenting me for keeping them from their father and their culture. That I was the one destroying this family, not him. I screenshot everything and sent it to Sandra. She called me Sunday morning absolutely furious that I'd talked to him. Said he violated the restraining order by contacting me and I should have hung up immediately. But then she said his admissions during that call actually helped our case. That him admitting to forging documents and planning this for months, all of that on record now through my account of the conversation, made the prosecution stronger. She told me to write down everything he said word for word while it was fresh. Sunday afternoon, Desmond's mom called me. Said she talked to Kilian trying to understand what happened and Kilian told her everything. The whole Istanbul plan. She had no idea. She thought Desmond was bringing the kids to Houston. That's what he'd told her. Finding out her son was planning to take her grandchildren to another country permanently, that he'd lied to her too, destroyed her. Then Monday morning, I woke up to 17 WhatsApp messages from Kilian, Desmond's brother in Istanbul. I'd never deleted his contact after I found those messages on Desmond's laptop, so the notifications just kept coming through. At first, I wasn't going to read them, but curiosity got the better of me. They started around 3 a.m. my time, which would have been late afternoon in Turkey. The first few were in Turkish, but then he switched to English, calling me every name you can imagine. Said I was a selfish American woman who didn't deserve Desmond or the children. That I'd manipulated Desmond into staying in a country that suffocated him. That Turkish children belong with Turkish family, not with someone like me who refused to respect their heritage. He said Desmond had told him months ago how unhappy he was, how trapped he felt, how I controlled everything about our life and wouldn't let him make any decisions about the kids. Which is insane because I've never controlled anything. Desmond worked from home, did whatever he wanted. I was the one constantly adjusting my work schedule around his needs. Kilian kept going, message after message, said American courts are corrupt, that I'd stolen Desmond's chance at happiness and now I was keeping his nephews from him, that the whole Turkish side of the family was disgusted with me, that I'd better watch my back because they weren't going to let this stand. That last part honestly scared me. I screenshot everything and sent it to Sandra immediately. She called within 10 minutes and told me to block him right now. That threatening messages from family members could actually help our case show there was a coordinated plan. That Kilian, admitting he knew about Desmond's unhappiness months ago, proved this wasn't some spontaneous decision. I blocked Kilian, but then started getting messages from other numbers I didn't recognize. More family members from Turkey, cousins, aunts, people I'd never even met. All variations of the same thing, that I was keeping the children from their real family, that American women don't understand family loyalty. that Desmond was fighting for his rights and they supported him completely. One message from someone claiming to be Desmond's aunt said that if I really loved my children, I'd let them grow up in Turkey where they'd be surrounded by family who actually cared about them, that raising them in America was selfish, that I was denying them their birthright. Desmond's criminal trial is scheduled for January. His lawyer is trying to get the charges reduced, but Sandra says with the evidence we have, that's unlikely. He's looking at actual prison time if convicted. The next custody hearing is in 3 weeks, and Sandra's confident we'll get permanent sole custody at that point. But honestly, I don't care about any of that right now. I care that Mason flinches when he hears a car door close. I care that Joy won't sleep alone. I care that the man I trusted with everything turned out to be someone I never really knew at all. Someone who convinced himself that what he was doing was right, that I was the problem, that stealing our children was justified somehow. People keep asking me if I'm okay, and I genuinely don't know how to answer that. My kids are safe, I have custody, the legal stuff is moving forward, but I'm also just angry all the time. Angry that I have to explain to my babies why their father isn't here, angry that Desmond still thinks he was in the right, angry that his entire Turkish family sees me as the villain when I'm the one who stopped him from ruining all our lives. That person never existed. It was all performance while he secretly resented everything about our life together and planned his escape. So yeah, that's where things stand. Marriage is obviously over. This whole thing is completely insane and I'm just doing my best.